All right, this next one is a fun one. It's text. So I'm going to take this Polymesh 3D, drag it out, go into edit mode, choose matcap gray. And now we're going to go to open the subtool so we can kind of see what we're doing here. Now I'm going to go ahead and close out of this brush menu here, and we're going to go to Z plugin, grab that white circle, drag it over, and go to text 3D and vector shapes. Pretty simple. If you go over here and you click new text, what you can do is you can type in any words, hit enter, and that'll go ahead and give you new text. If you go in here to polyframe, you're going to see, we can see it, and you're going to see in our subtools here, it just appended the text as a new subtool. So we can just go ahead and turn off the eyeball for the star here, and we can kind of play around with this. So immediately, since we have this just created, we can go into edit text, and it has test still on there, so we can do like maybe test again. So here's our test still. We're working our way down here. We can go to, here's the fonts you can choose. If you click this right arrow, it'll go through the fonts one at a time. You can also go back through the fonts. You can also click on these fonts, and you can choose one. So if you choose one like Arial, and you also click here, we have black, bold, bold, italic, narrow, all these things that you can kind of change that you would expect from a font. Now, if you have your own personal special fonts, you can load a font file from disk. And as long as it's a TTF, TTC, OFT, or FON file, you can go ahead and just load it right in. Although they have a huge selection already of fonts that you can choose. We'll go ahead and skip SVG for now, but we can go ahead and talk a little bit about some of these options. So here's extrusion. You can extrude it and make it basically thinner or thicker. Your resolution is pretty understandable. You can just change the resolution on the fly. If we turn adaptive on or off, you're going to see it's going to throw some extra polygons at you. What adaptive on is doing is giving you the fewest number of polygons to get the form. If you turn adaptive off, it's going to give you more polygons to pretty much give you the same form. So generally speaking, I'd kind of leave that on unless you have some reason to turn it off. Spacing is pretty self-explanatory here. You can change the spacing in between the letters. You can change the bevel. So if you crank the bevel up, you're going to see we'll get a bevel around these polygroups here. And it's also, you're also going to notice we're getting a polygroup where the text is on either side. We're getting a separate polygroup. And of course, right down the middle of this, we're getting just one contiguous polygroup as well. So that's super useful if you want to go in and edit these later with poly modeling tools. But again, we can go through here. We can crank that bevel up. And if you have a bevel resolution of 1, your curvature is going to be grayed out. But as soon as you crank that up to like say 6 or 8, that's going to give you 8 loops on your bevel. And now that you've done that, you can tell the curvature to either bow out and get rounded. So if we turn this off, you can see it's kind of rounded out. Or you can go back down to 0 and it's just a flat bevel, or you can curve that in as well. So where you see replace right here, if you select this, we're going to turn this eyeball off. We have this poly mesh selected here. We'll go ahead and hit F to frame it. If we do replace, what it's going to do is replace that subtool with our text. So you can use that if you don't want to append your text. If you're making a lot of changes, let's suppose you could turn auto update off and then just turn that on if you want all your changes to come into effect. And then if you do vertical text, you can do vertical. You can do reverse text, have to go the other way. And of course you can turn all that off as well.